Carter, do you believe in leadership?
Yes.
Do you believe that it's good for basketball teams to have like one person who you would consider a leader,
Yeah.
or maybe even multiple, but definitely like there's individuals who embrace the role of a leader?
I played with the greatest leader in my life. Current head coach of Saginaw Valley, by the way, who is off to a 3-0 start. Shout out to Coach Chris Fowler. Yeah, it means something to have a great leader.
Yeah, that's good for an organization to have people in leadership roles that embrace it and do good.
It's
Yeah.
amazing and it's needed.
Carter, do you believe in Mark Pope?
For what, like basketball?
Just do you believe in Mark Pope?
No.
Would you consider Mark Pope a good leader?
No.
Okay, so Mark Pope was talking about leadership. This
Mm.
is what he had to say yesterday at the press conference on the idea of this team looking for a leader. Mark Pope said, quote, last year, we didn't have a clear voice who was the leader on this team. Most of the time for my teams, it's been a committee deal. We're not going to have one voice that's going to run this thing. It's going to be by committee. End quote. Now, that could be interpreted as like a direct assessment of the guys he has on this team. Like, hey, just telling you as it is, like, we're not going to have a vocal leader. It's going to be by committee this year. That'd be okay and honest, and I think you can understand it. This almost to me feels more like it's Mark Pope saying this is by design. You look through all my teams, it's a committee deal. We're not going to have one guy. We're not going to have one voice. That's not what my teams do. Look at last year. We don't have one leader. Do this by committee.
Mhm.
Is that good? Do you think it's really what's going on with Kentucky, and do you think it's by design?
So listen, I've been a part of teams where like you have more than one. Now I would say usually you have one guy who's like we used to call him speak. Like he spoke for everybody. You know what I'm saying? He was the head leader of the team. He was the main leader. But there were other guys that I think were part of that like leadership team that Mark Pope was talking about. I agree with that. I think there are good basketball teams that have multiple guys that are leaders, right? Um also think that, I have questions about like because I feel like Lamont Butler was a pretty good. I feel like he was the leader of the
A
team last
great
year.
leader.
A great
Am I
lead. Like I feel
tripping?
like that's not giving him credit for what he was because I thought he's a great leader. That was kind of part of his pitch as a basketball person. Here's where you lose me though. Greg, are you aware of any committees that don't have any members?
Aware of committees that don't have members.
Like, don't you need like people on the committee?
I think you've got to have members to be a committee.
Otherwise, like you can't just have a committee and there's no one on the committee.
I don't think a committee exists without members.
Exactly. So your leadership committee can't exist if you don't have any leaders. You have zero. There's no
Oh,
leadership committee because there's no one who's a leader.
like that's just who these human beings are. They're not leaders.
Yeah,
That's your
because you
interpretation.
want to know something? Who are we told was the leader of this basketball team?
Otega Owe.
Otega Owe in the last 48 hours has said, "Yeah, I think it's about time for me to start trying."
It's true. You sit back, I rest my case.
What are we supposed to do with that?
Yeah. Here's what I would say.
My heart goes out to Kentucky fans.
So I think here's my view on leadership. I think that you can't really fake it, and I don't think that you can really assign someone to be a leader
Hmm.
that isn't naturally that. Like I don't know. I'm not saying that's what Mark Pope is doing, but
Hmm.
the idea like this team doesn't have leaders. Here's what I would say. I actually disagree with that. They have leaders who are failing to lead. Otega Owe is the leader of this team. He's leading it off a cliff. He's not doing his job. Now, I think you can go throughout history and find examples of this happening everywhere where like the guy who needs to lead can't do it, or the guy who needs to lead is not a leader, or that he's not capable. That might be the case with this team. But no matter what Mark Pope says, like, oh, my teams don't have leaders, that's just bullshit. Last year's team did. Lamont Butler did. And that team was a group of grown men that, quite frankly, didn't need a lot of leading, right? This year's team is younger. This year's team has underclassmen from the portal that come here from losing environments, right? Like even the guys that aren't playing, Jaden Quaintance, Jalen Lowe, have not been on winning teams. These guys need leadership. And it's supposed to be the guys that have already been in the system, that have seen it, that have had success, that now, like, whether they want to or not, have to step up and do it. You just have to. That's the evolution of a 4 year basketball career. So for me, when we say, like, yeah, there's not going to be a voice, there needs to be a voice. And from the player's perspective, it needs to be Otega Oweh. It can't be by committee. We cannot sit here and say, like, Colin Chandler or Brandon Garrison or Malachi Moreno's voices matter as much as Otega's. They just don't. That's not what this team is. Now it's up to Otega to like fulfill that, and he's clearly failed in that right now. The other thing I would say, if it's not going to be a player, if Mark Pope is going to sit here and be like, "Yeah, by committee, we don't really have a leader," then he needs to, because it doesn't have to just be a player, right? It can be a coach that stands up there and says, "I will take us here." We've seen Tom Izzo do that with teams that don't have great leaders before. So Pope's also failing to do that while he looks at the rest of his group and says, "Well, if you're waiting for a voice, it's not going to happen." You're struggling to get through these.
Because like I just want to wrap my arms around Big Blue Nation and say it's gonna be okay. I do agree with that. I think that there's teams you can look at and be like, you know what, there actually is no leaders on this basketball team, and you can maybe get past it. To be honest with you, like I'm not saying like leadership is everything. I think there's teams that have won without leadership for what it's worth. Um, they're as good at basketball. But I think that there are leaders that are currently failing on this basketball team. And I think that starts at the top with Otega, who's supposed to be a leader, and also the man who's the head coach of this basketball team, who I don't think is a current good leader right now.
Yeah.
Leaders have their troops prepared.
Yeah.
Your troops stink right now,
Yeah.
and they're unprepared.
Do you think any of the players in this locker room are like approaching their day to day within this team of like, okay, I got to lead today? Do you think there's any like try hard leaders that are like putting their best foot forward and it's just not resonating?
I think Brandon Garrison trying to be the guy who's talking in the huddle last game to other people is him trying to be a leader.
So Brandon Garrison's trying to step up and be the leader this team needs.
That's how bad this team's leadership is.
I do think Malachi's trying, but it's really hard for a freshman to do that.
It is true. Also, like guys gotta want to lead.
Guys got to want to be led.
Guys gotta want. That's the scariest part of all this. This is all trending towards a team that's going to give up.
It's very early to say that.
It is very early, but it's trending towards that.
Yeah, but let's talk tonight because one game against Loyola Maryland can get everything back on track.